we get started with today's episode, I would like to quickly read you our podcast disclaimer. This podcast is for educational purposes only, and it is not to substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. You should always speak with your physician or other healthcare professionals before doing any fasting, changing your diet in any way, taking or adjusting any medications or supplements, or adopting any treatment plan for a health problem. The use of any other products or services purchased by you as a result of this podcast does not create a healthcare provider-patient relationship between you and any of the experts affiliated with this podcast. Any information and statements regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All right, and now we'll get started with today's episode.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Nadia Paraguana, and I'm here to do another bite-sized episode for you guys. So I was thinking of what I want to talk to you guys about. And I remember that I was looking forward to writing a new blog post that I haven't written about yet, but I've talked quite a bit about in my community meetings in the fasting method community. So here's something that people often ask me, and I don't think I've talked about it here yet or in detail in an organized manner, nor have I written a blog post about it, but I do look forward to doing that sometime in the future, probably after recording this bite-sized episode with all of you. So here's the thing. I like to give things nicknames. I like to organize things in my mind. And that's sort of the way that I often present information to you guys, right? Many of you guys are familiar with my 5 pillars. I used to have my 3 steps to success that, thanks to Coach Terry, have now become 5 steps to success. But I'm also known within our community for giving everything and everyone a nickname, right? Particularly our therapeutic fasts. I've given these a nickname, and I thought that I would take some time and explain to you guys why I have named each of these various fasting schedules, why I've given each of these various fasting schedules a particular nickname. And of course, to most of you, these all probably make sense. But if you've never heard of them before, then I'd like to share them with you. And over the last even few weeks and months, there have been some new schedules or new nicknames added to my list. So I'd like to share those with you. So one of our fasting method resources are my 60-40 protocols for continuous healing and weight loss and reversal of diabetes. And in this particular TFM resource, that I talk about, this 60-40 rule of this percentile split between a balanced eating and fasting schedule for continuous healing, I have a list. I've listed a list of examples of fasting schedules that people have used or can choose from. And I'd like to add that there are many more great therapeutic fasting schedules than the ones on that particular list. There's actually a couple that I'm about to share with you guys that aren't on that list or weren't on that list at the time that resource was created. So if you go to that resource, in the fasting method, Nadia's 60-40 protocols, you will find that the very first one is called Start Here. And not shocking to you, you will find that the Start Here protocol is the alternate day 2 meal, 1 meal, or the 3 times 24-hour fast. So if you're familiar with this schedule, you know that on an eating day, I recommend that people have 2 meals. And that on the fasting day, which is the alternate day, people have 1 meal. And they either alternate and do a rolling 24 pattern of 2 meal, 1 meal, 2 meal, 1 meal, and rotate through week after week, or they do the 3 times 24 protocol. And that means that you basically fast and do 1 meal Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the remaining 4 days, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, you do 2 meals. Okay. I have called that schedule Start Here. Seems simple enough. Start here because I think it's a great opportunity for people to work on their TRE, time restricted eating. It's a great opportunity for people to work on their relationship with food. It's a great opportunity for people to start considering which electrolytes and how to take electrolytes. Okay, so whether you have a lot of experience with extended fasting, whether you fasted in the past or you're a brand new beginner to fasting, I think that as you restart or start to fast, I think you should do this in a step-by-step manner and start here. Start with the 2-meal, 1-meal alternate day. So that's why I call it start here. The one after that, if I'm not mistaken, or one that's there for sure, is called the quote-unquote gold standard. And the quote-unquote gold standard, no shocker to most of you, is the 3 times 42. I think most people that join our program or are in our program are either trying to do 342s or are already doing or have at some point done the 342s in order to lose weight or to reverse diabetes. I think it's the most common protocol, not necessarily the one that people are doing more consistently, but the one that people want to do more consistently. It's the one that I think people have heard or understood to be quote unquote our gold standard, right? The protocol for therapeutic fasting and therapeutic healing. And I definitely agree with that. I think that is, I call it the gold standard because I think that, you can't go wrong with that. 3 times 42, that means that you fast all day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So no meal, nomad, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you eat 2 meals a day, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay. Again, it's called the gold standard because I think it's probably the simplest one. It's the one that people have heard of the most, the one that people understand the most, and the one that's probably been around the longest. Okay. Now, after that, you will find a protocol called Nadia's Favorite. And I've even written a blog post about this, Nadia's Favorite. And many people recognize the 248s to be the protocol that they've heard me historically talk about the most. And the reason why the 248s became Nadia's Favorite is because I found that most people that could do 342s could easily or more easily do 248s. My concern with the 342s that I was finding over and over again with my clients is that people wanted to do 342s. They had the desire or the intent to do 342s. In other words, do no meal, nomad, or fast all day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But that the majority of the time I was finding that my clients were successfully fasting Monday and Wednesday, but they ended up doing a 24 instead of a 42 on Friday. And not only did they feel a sense of failure, but when it came to looking at their results week after week after week, they weren't really seeing the consistent results that they were looking for. So after analyzing that, somehow, somewhere, this fasting schedule of 248s appeared, which basically is instead of doing 3 fasts Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're doing 2 slightly longer fasts from Monday to Tuesday, and then again from Thursday to Friday. So it looks like this. Monday, no meal. Tuesday, 1 meal. That's your first 48. So instead of eating 2 meals on Tuesday, you stretch your fast slightly and you have 1 meal on Tuesday, probably dinner. Then you have 2 meals Wednesday. Those 2 meals on Wednesday are extremely important in between the 2 fasts in order to get that balance between eating and fasting. And then you start fasting again from Wednesday, probably dinner, fast all day Thursday, and then have again 1 later meal on Friday. And that ends your second 48. And then you have 2 meals Saturday, Sunday. That became my favorite because once I explained it to people and people had the fasting muscle to do that, which most people can acquire that fasting muscle over time with the appropriate, as I talked about earlier, TRE, appropriate hydration, fasting aids, etc. I found that it was very successful because people that had a more active social life or family life, people that had families that they usually look forward to going out to eat on Friday night and on the weekends, I found that people found it a lot easier to do 2 longer 48-hour fasts consistently week after week than they did consistent 3 42-hour fasts. Okay, so that's why it became Nadia's Favorite. It wasn't necessarily because the 248s are better than the 342s. It was just that people were more consistent with it and found that it was more sustainable to do during their therapeutic fasting journey. Okay, that's why it became Nadia's Favorite. After that protocol, the next nickname is the Formula 1. The Formula 1, some people will recognize, but as I often say, I call it Formula 1 because I do believe it to be a very accelerated healing protocol. Accelerated as in, quick cars, Formula One. It is very accelerated. It's a very speedy way to reverse your concerns like diabetes or to lose weight. Lots of people in our program have done for a period of time. And again, it could be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, have done consistent 2 times 66-hour fasts and have had amazing results. Now, why do I call it Formula One? Not just because it's very speedy, very aggressive, very accelerated, but also because I don't think all of us are Formula One drivers. I certainly am not a Formula One driver, and you might not be either. So even though the 266s might sound very appealing to people that are looking for a very speedy therapeutic journey, it isn't necessarily available to everyone, at least not at the beginning. You really do need to work on that fasting muscle before you get there. You have to work really hard on figuring out which electrolytes you need, how much electrolytes you need, how much hydration you need. You need to figure out how you're going to deal with social days, etc., etc. So it is accessible to some people. It's not accessible to everyone. It is super speedy. It is super effective. I think it's great if you want to implement it for a therapeutic period of time, which I think we should all consider our therapeutic healing phase to be a good 3 to 6 months of consistent fasting, therapeutic fasting. So I do think the 266s are great. I love Formula One. My husband loves Formula One. So I am all for it. I just don't think it's available to everyone. And if it isn't available to you, that is okay. You can work on one of the other schedules. And you might be surprised that one day you may say, hey, I want to try this Formula One for a couple of weeks, a couple of months. So it looks a little something like this. You fast all day Monday, Tuesday. You eat 2 meals Wednesday. You fast all day Thursday, Friday, and you eat 2 meals Saturday and Sunday. So will that work for you? Maybe, maybe not. You're fasting all day, Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday, Friday all day again, but you're eating 2 meals Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. I have found that people that were very focused and dedicated to their therapeutic journey and prioritize their therapeutic journey over all other aspects of their lives for a period of time, which is what I think we should all consider doing. That's the mindset that I think that we should have when going into this therapeutic journey. I think that people have had great success with that. It's not that they're not enjoying life or putting off completely their social aspect of their life, but they were choosing to do that on maybe Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Now, having said that, let me move on to another one that is actually not listed on that resource that I think might actually be an even better and more useful. And if I could go back, maybe that's the one that I would have called Nadia's favorite, which is the rolling 42s. It's very similar to the gold standard, the 342s, but it's a rolling pattern of alternate day, 2 meal, no meal, 2 meal, no meal. And it's called the rolling 42s. Again, I think that once your mindset is at a place where you are prioritizing your healing and your therapeutic journey, I think that this is probably the best protocol for the majority of people out there. Once you've acquired this fasting muscle of being able to do full days of no meals, I think that the best balance for continuous, and nobody's journey is linear, but more of a linear healing journey, is this alternate day, 2 meal, no meal, rolling 42. So if I could go back to this resource and do it all over again, I would probably call the rolling 42s Nadia's favorite. And again, that's because, and I haven't mentioned this yet today, but this is the only schedule, and it's not mentioned there, that actually goes straight through and you're fasting throughout, including the weekends. I think that most of our initial fasting schedules that we created for people had them eat 2 meals on Saturday and Sunday because there was this notion that nobody wants to fast on the weekend, nobody should have to fast on the weekend. But I think at this point, our mindset in general is changing in that we're trying to look, not trying to, we are beginning to look at our therapeutic journey, and we're looking to encourage you to look at your therapeutic journey as a priority in your life, as something that you want to focus on and give the importance that it truly deserves for a period of time. Like any other healing or therapeutic protocol, like physical therapy, chemotherapy, psychotherapy, if you were focusing on any other type of therapy, you would want to make that a priority and you would want to show up to your therapy. So showing up to this rolling 42s consistently, I think, is going to very effectively and in a very swift manner get you to your goal and to carry out your healing journey. Okay. And then last but not least, on that resource, I have the Holy Grail fasting schedule. And the reason why I've called the 72/24 the Holy Grail is really because I view the 3-day, 72-hour fasts as the Holy Grail. I think it is, most people would agree, if you do a little bit of fasting research, that the healing benefits that we're looking to achieve from fasting really peak at 72 hours. When we're looking at autophagy and we're looking at the counter-regulatory hormones like growth hormones, these are things that are going up as you fast longer and longer. And these all seem, at least based on the information that we have at this point, they seem to peak, they're really maximized at 72 hours. And also when we're looking at sort of the balance, right, between, as I said before, not only eating and fasting, but the pros and cons of this. Are we increasing our counter-regulatory hormones, our stress hormones a little too much for some people? I think it's that balance of at what point are you hydrating enough and do you start to feel dehydrated? And I think that there is a way to, of course, extend fast past 3 days and still get really, really great benefits. And there's a time and place definitely for more extended fasts. But I think that I will continue to call the 72-hour fast the Holy Grail, because I think that you can certainly get the most benefits from fasting while minimizing all the possible side effects if you're well informed and have the support that you need. And I will continue to call the 72s the Holy Grail for reversing specifically type 2 diabetes. All right, everyone? Well, although there are many more nicknames that I will probably come up with and our community will probably come up with, I'll leave you with these for now and look forward to talking to you all very, very soon. Take care, everyone.